Hi, I'm Sam here at Rick Jones Pianos with a Steinway console that was made in New York City in 1956. It's a Model 100 console, the second of three console designs that they made over the years, starting in the 1930s and ending in the, I believe it was the early 90s. They came out with their first console design, the Model 40, in the 30s, at a time when people were buying smaller pianos. It was common during the Depression, and so Steinway wanted to fulfill that demand for a smaller piano. But that piano design was found to have some deficiencies, particularly in the depth of the base of it. So they came out with this Model 100 in 1953 to correct some of those deficiencies and kind of give the piano a deeper sound, which is hard to do on a small piano like this. It's only 41 inches tall. But Steinway, in their wisdom, haven't been gained from making not only concert grand pianos, some of the finest in the world, but also larger upright pianos. They were able to scale down those upright pianos to basically fit inside a smaller cabinet and get, as much as they could, a deep sound out of it. And they called it the 100 because it was released on the 100-year anniversary of Steinway's founding in 1853. So this model came out in 1953, and this particular one was made in 56, shortly thereafter. The furniture style itself is pretty common for what we often get in these Steinway console models. It is the Hepplewhite furniture design. They made other designs that we don't see quite as often, like an Italianette, more modern designs, contemporary designs, but by far the most that I've seen, the most often in furniture style I've seen that these Steinways were made out of is the Hepplewhite, and it's a very classic traditional design. And of course Steinway's selection of veneer is always really high quality. And this one has a, I think, particularly vivid grain. It's a cherry finish. I believe it's a cherry finish. And my colleagues have done a beautiful job preparing the piano, sort of reviving the original finish, which had some blemishes when it came in. They've made it really look really beautiful. And we've got all the brass polish. It's a really beautiful little piece of traditional American furniture. It also includes, well, that sure looks like an original bench. The legs on this piano have the same reeding pattern that this bench has. This is Manual Arts. That is an old company that used to make piano benches. I don't know if they're in business anymore, but they were the supplier of piano benches to Steinway, and they would make them to match the legs of Steinway pianos. So it comes as an original bench. It sure looks like an original bench. It's a matching bench, and we encourage you to take it with this piano. So, really charming little piano. The tone really depends on how you play it. If you play loudly, it has more of a bright sound. If you play softly, you get a really delicate sound. Really, I was surprised at how much of a wide dynamic range this piano had. Oftentimes, little console pianos are rather limited in their range of dynamics, and oftentimes, especially on an older model, they sound loud and louder, but on a Steinway that's been properly prepared like this piano has been, that is not the case. It's capable of a much wider range. Part of that, I believe the piano, it has new hammers, or at least newer than the piano. A previous technician installed these hammers and did a very good job installing them. When we got this piano in, other than doing the typical finish preparation and regulation, we also replaced the tuning pins with a larger size, because the original ones were not tight enough, but we thought this piano was certainly worth the effort of restoring, and so we have restored it. So the tone, the Steinway uprights have a unique sound, and you don't find it in many pianos anymore, in my opinion. It's partially because they were kind of scaled down versions of big old Steinway upright pianos that were 50 inches or taller, and that's a aesthetic of sound that has kind of died away with the times. It reminds me a lot of a big old upright American vintage upright piano, really sort of deep booming sound, especially in the lower notes, and a uniquely warm sound that in my opinion you don't find in newer upright pianos. This piano has that. So if you grew up with an old vintage American upright piano and missed that sound, I think you'll be quite pleased with how this piano turned out. But overall, strictly speaking with respect to brightness and mellowness, it's in the middle, so I'll rate it a 5 on a scale from 1 to 10, from mellow to bright. The touch, likewise, it's not too hard, it's not too easy. Sometimes Steinways can feel a bit harder. I've noticed that even on their upright pianos, they have more resistance in the keys. That's not the case here, but it's also not too easy either, so I would say it has an average amount of resistance in the keys, and so it will be a 5 on a scale from 1 to 10, from light to firm. And of course, like everything else we sell, it has a 10-year warranty, all parts and labor, and a 100% lifetime trade-up guarantee. Just please make sure to have it in tune twice a year by a professional technician and kept away from extremes of humidity. Moderate and stable humidity is crucial for keeping any piano, no matter the brand or type, any piano in good condition in the long term, and we would certainly hope you would do that for such a well-made piano as this Steinway. And in the future, if you wish, you can return to us and trade this piano in precisely for its instrument sales price. That's what we mean by a 100% lifetime trade-up guarantee. And, well, we might get larger Steinway upprints in the future. If we do, they tend to go pretty quickly. They're very popular amongst customers. But it will only be a little bit taller than this. We only rarely get the full-size Model K Steinway. And likely, if you're working your way up in our inventory through the hierarchy of pianos, after this I would think you'd be looking at a Steinway Baby Grand. And that would certainly, at least in my opinion, be a logical upgrade from this piano, and so you would get 100% of the instrument sales price in trade. So, please stop by, try it out for yourself. You can play it or anything else in the inventory. But if you can't make it, you can always give us a phone call or send us an email if you have any questions. Thanks.